The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. "Are you mated, human?" I had been reaching for my water flask when the taller of the two Valorian sisters asked it. Her silver eyes never blinked. Neither did her twins. They stood on either side of the cramped diplomatic shuttle's only exit, their blue-gray skin catching the overhead lights in ways that made them look carved from living metal. My brain, exhausted from 18 hours of translation work and running on nothing but emergency rations and spite, chose that exact moment to malfunction. "Mated?" I laughed, actually laughed, and said, "What? Like pandas? Do I look like I need a breeding program?" The silence that followed could have frozen plasma. Vela, the one who had asked, tilted her head precisely 7 degrees. Her twin, Keitha, mirrored the motion in reverse. They did that, moved in perfect opposition, like they shared one mind running 2 bodies. It had been unsettling during the 6-hour negotiation session. Now, with them standing between me and the only door, it was terrifying. "You compare yourself to a creature requiring intervention for reproduction?" Vela's voice had dropped half an octave. "You claim dysfunction? What?" "No, the human, admits biological inadequacy." Keitha's hand moved to her belt. Not to a weapon, to a small crystalline device I didn't recognize. "This must be reported." Reported to whom? I stood up too fast and both sisters shifted their weight. Predator instincts. They had those in abundance. I was joking. It was a joke. Define this joke. It's words you say that aren't meant literally. For humor. Humans do it when we're uncomfortable. You are uncomfortable with questions of mating. Vela took one step closer. Just one. But in the confined space, it felt like she'd crossed a kilometer. Why would this cause discomfort if you have nothing to hide? I had walked into something. I could feel it. That particular flavor of diplomatic disaster that came from not reading the cultural briefing carefully enough. The mission had been thrown together in 48 hours. The Valorians had demanded a human translator for their trade negotiations with the consortium, and I was the only one available who spoke their primary dialect. Nobody had mentioned that their species asked about mating status within hours of meeting someone. Nobody had mentioned what a wrong answer might mean. "I'm not hiding anything," I said carefully. "I'm unmated. Single. No partner." I made a joke, because the question surprised me. The twins exchanged a look, one of those silent communications that seem to carry entire conversations in a single glance. When they turned back to me, something had shifted in their expressions. "Unmated," Keitha repeated. "Confirmed unmated. And your joke, this breeding program, it was not a statement of intent? Intent? Intent to what? To seek intervention." Vela's silver eyes narrowed. "To request assistance in your mating. From us." The shuttle suddenly felt very, very small. "I wasn't requesting anything," I said. "I swear on whatever you consider sacred, I was just being awkward. It's what humans do. Awkward, awkward." Keitha tested the word. "This is the word for requesting mating assistance while pretending not to." "No, that's not—" I stopped. Took a breath. Years of diplomatic training screaming at me to slow down, assess, respond with precision. In human culture, joking about sensitive topics is a way of acknowledging discomfort without causing offense. I was not, in any way, asking you to help me find a mate, or to mate with me, or anything involving mating whatsoever. Another exchanged look, longer this time. "He is flushed," Vela observed. "Elevated heart rate," Keitha added. "Visible perspiration. These are signs of embarrassment," I interrupted. "Signs of embarrassment. I'm mortified right now. Do you know that word? Mortified, wanting the floor to open up and swallow me whole." Vela's head tilted again. "You wish for death?" "Figuratively. Not literally." It means I'm so uncomfortable I'd prefer temporary non-existence to continuing this conversation. But you continue it, because you're blocking the door. Both sisters looked at the exit behind them, as if noticing their positions for the first time. They didn't move. The door is not relevant, Keitha said. It feels very relevant from where I'm standing. Sit. Vela's command was quiet, but absolute. We must understand this joke before we can proceed. You have created a complication, human. Whether you intended it or not, your words have meaning in our culture. Meanings you clearly do not comprehend. I sat. Not because I wanted to, but because my legs had decided they were done supporting my weight through whatever this was becoming. What meanings? I asked. Tell me what I actually said, in Valorian terms. The twins exchanged one more look. When Vela spoke again, her voice was carefully neutral. In our culture, to reference reproductive intervention while in the presence of unmated females is a formal declaration. You have, as far as our customs recognize, announced your intention to court both of us. She paused, simultaneously. The water flask slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a dull clang. And your subsequent denials, Keitha added, your mortification, your wish for figurative death, these are all recognized stages of the courtship ritual. You are performing them with remarkable accuracy. I'm not performing anything, he protests with passion, Vela noted to her sister. Stage 4. I noticed. Quite vigorous. I stared at them. They stared back. Two pairs of unblinking silver eyes, two faces of living metal, two bodies that moved like weapons waiting to be drawn. And somewhere in the space between us, my terrible, horrible, no good joke had apparently proposed marriage to both of them. Okay, I said slowly. How do I undo this? Undo? Keitha's expression flickered. Something that might have been amusement or might have been offense. You wish to withdraw your declaration? I wish to clarify that there was no declaration. That it was a misunderstanding. That I am very, very sorry for any confusion, and I will never make a joke again as long as I live. Apologies are stage 5, Vela said. You progress quickly. That's not. I stopped myself. Pressed my palms against my eyes, tried to think through the panic. What is the actual courtship ritual? All of it. Tell me so I can stop accidentally doing it. The twins went still. Not the usual predator stillness, but something different. Something almost uncomfortable. That information, Vela said carefully, is typically only shared with serious suitors. I'm not a serious suitor. You have completed 5 stages in under 10 minutes. By Valorian standards, you are exceptionally serious. I laughed again. I couldn't help it. It was that or scream. This is insane. This whole situation is insane. I made a bad joke about pandas, and now I'm engaged. Not engaged, Keitha corrected, declared. There is a difference. Engagement requires mutual acceptance. Declaration is merely the opening move. And if I don't want to make an opening move, then you must formally withdraw. Vela's voice carried something I hadn't heard before. Was that hesitation? But formal withdrawal has requirements. Conditions. You cannot simply say you did not mean it. What conditions? The sisters looked at each other again. This time, the silent communication lasted longer. When they turned back, something in their posture had shifted. They were still blocking the door, but it felt less like containment now, and more like something else. The conditions, Keitha said slowly, are complicated. Complicated how? Vela moved, not toward me, but to the side, settling into the seat across from mine. After a moment, her sister did the same, taking the seat beside her. They sat in perfect symmetry, silver eyes fixed on my face. You must understand something first, Vela said, about why we asked the question, about why we are here specifically on this shuttle, with you. I thought I was assigned as a translator. You were. But assignments can be influenced. Arrangements can be made. She paused. We arranged for you, Marcus Chen. Specifically. My name sounded strange in her voice. I hadn't told her my name. The mission briefing had only used my title. How do you know my name? We know many things about you. Keitha leaned forward slightly. Your linguistic skills, your diplomatic record, your cultural adaptability scores, your mating status, Vela added, which was listed as unattached in your personnel file. The shuttle's recycled air suddenly felt thin. You pulled my personnel file? We requested a translator meeting specific criteria. You exceeded all of them. Criteria for what? The twins exchanged one final look. When they spoke next, they spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing in a way that sent shivers down my spine. For consideration, I sat there, in the cramped diplomatic shuttle, looking at two alien women who had apparently manipulated an entire mission assignment to get me alone with them. Who had asked about my mating status within hours of meeting me. Who were now telling me that my terrible joke had accidentally stumbled into something they had planned all along. Consideration, I repeated slowly. For what, exactly? Vela almost smiled. Almost. The expression looked unpracticed on her metallic features, like a skill she'd learned but rarely used. That, she said, is what we must discuss. But first, you have a choice. Withdraw your declaration, formally, and return to simple translator duties. We will not hold the misunderstanding against you. Or, Keitha finished her sister's thought, or remain declared, and learn what that truly means. What we truly want. What you might gain. The door remained blocked, but I was starting to realize it wasn't to keep me in, it was to keep everything else out. I have questions, I said. A lot of them. We would expect nothing less. I leaned back in my seat and met their silver gazes as steadily as I could. My heart was still racing. My palms were still sweating. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice that sounded suspiciously like my diplomatic instructor was screaming about protocol and procedures and appropriate professional distance. But I'd never been particularly good at following rules. Then let's talk, I said. But first, will one of you please move away from the door, just for my sanity? The twins considered this for 3 full seconds. Then Keitha stood, crossed the shuttle, and sat down directly beside me. Close enough that I could feel the subtle warmth radiating from her skin, warmer than I'd expected for someone who looked like living metal. Vela remained where she was, watching. Better? Keitha asked. The door was unblocked. Technically. But I was now sandwiched between 2 alien women who had apparently selected me for reasons I didn't fully understand, in a situation I definitely hadn't prepared for, having accidentally initiated a courtship ritual I didn't know existed. Sure, I said weakly. Much better. 3 hours later, I understood considerably more and felt considerably less stable about all of it. The Valorian courtship tradition, the real one, not the abbreviated version I'd stumbled through, was a complex negotiation that made human dating look like a casual handshake. It had stages, formal declarations, witnessed statements, and something called a period of examination that Vela explained with clinical precision and Keitha illustrated with increasingly pointed glances in my direction. The examination period, Vela was saying, allows both parties to assess compatibility. Physical, intellectual, emotional. It typically lasts 1 lunar cycle. Your lunar cycle or mine? Ours. Approximately 47 of your Earth days. And during this period, close proximity, shared space, observed interactions. Vela's silver eyes held mine. The twins' bond allows us to assess a potential mate from multiple perspectives simultaneously. What one sees, the other comprehends. What one feels, the other knows, Keitha finished. Her shoulder was almost touching mine. She hadn't moved closer, but she hadn't moved away either. It's efficient, thorough. It sounds intense. It is. I stood up. I needed to move, to think, to put some distance between myself and the weight of their combined attention. The shuttle wasn't large enough for real pacing, but I made do with the 3 steps between the seats and the observation window. Outside, the stars held steady. We were in transit to the consortium station, another 12 hours of travel time. 12 hours in this tiny space with 2 women who had just explained, in detail, how their species selected partners. I need to understand something, I said, keeping my back to them. You said you arranged this assignment, that you chose me specifically. Why? Why do you think? I'm asking because I don't know. I'm a mid-level translator. I have no political connections, no family influence, nothing that would make me valuable as a mate. The words still felt strange in my mouth. So why me? I heard movement behind me, both of them standing, their synchronized footsteps barely audible on the shuttle floor. When I turned, they had positioned themselves with the careful precision I was starting to recognize as deliberate. Vela near the door, Keitha near the small galley. Blocking nothing, but covering everything. What do you know of the Valorian political structure? Vela asked. Matriarchal, twin-based inheritance. Pair bonds are the foundation of power. I frowned. Why is this relevant? Because we are not simply 2 women who found you interesting. Keitha moved to the galley controls, her fingers dancing over the interface. The smell of something warm and vaguely spiced filled the small space. We are daughters of the first house, direct inheritors of the Valorian high seat. The stars outside suddenly seemed very far away. Your royalty. We are heirs, Vela corrected, which is both more and less than royalty. More, because the high seat commands the loyalty of 17 inhabited systems. Less, because we have not yet claimed it. Cannot claim it, Keitha added, until we are mated. And mating, for a daughter of the first house, is not a private matter. It is a political event. Our choice of partner affects alliances, trade agreements, military positioning. Vela's voice carried something I hadn't heard before. Weariness, maybe. Or resignation. Every eligible candidate from the great houses has been presented to us. Valerian males of proper breeding, proper connection, proper predictability. You don't want predictable. We don't want performance. Keitha returned from the galley with 2 small cups, offering one to me. The liquid inside was a deep amber, steaming gently. Every Valorian male who approaches us has been trained since childhood in exactly how to court the high seat's heirs. Every word calculated, every gesture rehearsed. They court our position, not us. I took the cup without drinking. And you think I'm different because I'm human? Because I didn't know the rules? You are different because you failed the rules spectacularly and then tried to apologize for the failure. Vela's almost smile returned. Do you understand how rare that is? To see someone genuinely mortified rather than strategically humble. I also accidentally proposed to both of you. That doesn't seem like a strong foundation for anything. You panicked. You were honest about the panic. You asked questions instead of making assumptions. Keitha sipped her own drink, watching me over the rim. In 47 years of courtship presentations, you are the first candidate to ever ask us what we truly want. I haven't asked that. You were about to. She was right. The question had been forming since they started explaining, since I began to see the shape of what they were describing. 2 powerful women trapped by their own power, seeking something genuine in a world of endless calculation. What do you truly want? I asked. The twins exchanged one of their silent looks. But this one was different. Less strategic assessment, more vulnerability. When Vela answered, her voice was quiet. A partner who sees us. Not the high seat. Not the political advantage. Us. She paused. Someone who can make us laugh. Someone who is not afraid to be wrong in front of us. Someone who will stay when staying is difficult. Someone human, Keitha added. Not in species, but in texture. Imperfect. Surprising. Real. I looked at them. Really looked. Past the metallic skin and the predator stillness, and the synchronized movements that had seemed so alien. Past the titles, and the power, and the 17 star systems worth of political weight. 2 women, watching me with silver eyes full of something that looked remarkably like hope. This is insane, I said finally. Yes, I met you 6 hours ago. Yes. I don't know anything about your culture, your politics, I gestured vaguely. Anything. Also yes. And you want me to spend 47 days being examined by both of you simultaneously to determine if I'm suitable mate material for the heirs to an interstellar throne. That is an accurate summary. I drank the amber liquid in one long swallow. It burned going down, then spread warmth through my chest like liquid courage. Why would I say yes to that? Keitha moved, faster than I expected, closing the distance between us until we were almost touching. Her eyes, this close, weren't just silver. They had depth, layers of metallic hue shifting like clouds over a mirror. Because you're curious, she said. I can see it. You want to understand us. You want to know what happens next. You want Keitha. Vela's voice carried warning. Too fast. Her sister stopped, but didn't step back. The space between us hummed with something I couldn't name. I'm not saying yes, I said. But I'm not saying no. What are you saying? I'm saying I have 12 more hours on this shuttle, and you have a lot more explaining to do. I set down the empty cup. Tell me about the examination period. The real version. What would be expected of me? What would be expected of you? You want specifics. I want to know what I'd be agreeing to. In detail. Before I agree to anything. Vela moved then, joining her sister near me. Not as close as Keitha stood, but close enough. The twins in formation, silver eyes reflecting the starlight. The examination period requires cohabitation, Vela began. Shared quarters. Shared meals. We would observe how you function in domestic space, how you handle stress, how you communicate. There are formal interviews, Keitha added, witnessed by house elders. You would be asked about your history, your intentions, your understanding of what partnership means. There are challenges. Vela's voice dropped slightly, physical, mental, emotional, designed to reveal true character under pressure. And intimacy? The question came out before I could stop it. Keitha's expression flickered with something I couldn't read. Intimacy is permitted but not required during examination. Physical compatibility is one factor among many. She paused. But connection is expected. Emotional honesty. The ability to be present with each other. If I passed the examination, you would proceed to formal courtship. Another 47 days. More public. More observed. Concluding in either rejection or binding, Vela said. Permanent partnership. Marriage in your terms, though the Valorian version involves neurological bonding. We would feel each other across distances. Know each other's emotional states. Be connected in ways humans do not experience with each other. The weight of it settled over me like a physical thing. Not just marriage, fusion. Becoming part of their twin bond. 3 minds, linked forever. That's not a small thing, I said. No, you're asking me to consider giving up my entire identity as a separate individual. We are asking you to consider gaining something greater. Keitha's hand rose, hesitated, then gently touched my jaw. Her fingers were warm, her skin smooth as polished stone. The bond does not erase who you are. It expands it. You would still be Marcus Chen. But you would also be part of us. and we would be part of you. How do you know? Have you bonded before? No, but we have been bonded to each other since birth. Her thumb traced my cheekbone, feather light. We know what it means to never be alone, to always have someone who understands completely, to share joy and pain and everything between. It is not a sacrifice, Vela said softly. It is a gift, one we would only give to someone worthy. I stood there, alien fingers on my face, alien eyes holding mine, alien future sprawling out before me like an unmapped galaxy. 12 hours ago, I had been a translator on a routine assignment. But now I was being offered the chance to become something human beings had never been. I have more questions, I said. We have time. I need to think. Really think. Not just react. Then think. Keitha's hand dropped away, leaving my skin tingling where she'd touched. We will answer what we can. And what we cannot answer, you will discover during the examination, Vela finished. If you choose to proceed. If kin. Such a small word for such an enormous decision. Tell me about the challenges, I said. The ones designed to reveal true character. What would I face? The twins exchanged another look. When they turned back, their expressions were identical, and for the first time, I saw something that looked like respect. Perhaps, Vela said, you are more serious than you believe. The crisis came on the 7th day. I had agreed to the examination period, provisionally conditionally with enough caveats and stipulations to make my diplomatic instructors proud. The trade negotiations with the consortium had proceeded smoothly, my translation work providing perfect cover for the strange new reality of my situation. During the day, I was a professional, neutral, alert, focused. At night, I returned to quarters I now shared with the twins. They had been careful, those first days, respectful of boundaries I hadn't fully articulated. We talked for hours about their childhood, my career, the differences between our species that seemed vast, and the similarities that felt startling. I learned that Vela preferred her morning tea, scalding hot, while Keitha liked hers, barely warm. That they finished each other's sentences not from practice, but from genuine, shared thought. That their synchronized movements weren't conscious. They simply existed in such harmony that their bodies naturally mirrored each other. I learned that Keitha laughed more easily, but Vela's rare smiles meant more. That they disagree about music, about literature, about the proper way to organize a living space. That their twin bond made them one in many ways, but not all. They were still individuals, still capable of conflict, still working to understand each other even after a lifetime of connection. I learned that I liked them, both of them, in different ways and for different reasons and with a growing intensity that frightened me. And then the message came. We were in our shared quarters, a modest suite the consortium had provided, not knowing its occupants' true status. Keitha was reading something on her tablet while Vela reviewed trade documentation. I was pretending to study Valorian verb conjugations while actually watching them both, cataloging the small moments that had become precious to me. Vela's tablet chimed with a priority alert. Her face, when she read it, went absolutely still. What is it? Keitha set down her own device, already sensing something through their bond. Vela, what? Father is dead. The words hung in the recycled air. Simple words. Gaia. 4 of them. But they changed everything. The high seat is vacant, Vela continued, her voice mechanically flat. The council has initiated succession protocols. We have 14 days to present a bonded mate or Counselor Rethik assumes regency. Keitha's silver skin had gone pale. I hadn't known that was possible. He'll dismantle everything. The progressive reforms, the human trade agreements, all of it. I'm so sorry, I said, and the inadequacy of it burned in my throat. Your father, was dying for years. Vela finally looked up, and her eyes were devastating. Grief and rage and calculation all warring for dominance. We knew it was coming. We thought we had more time. How much time did you think you had? Months. Perhaps a year. She set down the tablet with careful precision, like she might shatter if she moved too fast. Enough time to complete the examination properly. To court you as you deserve. To let you choose freely. And now? The twins looked at each other. The longest silent exchange I'd witnessed, seconds stretching into an eternity of shared thought and feeling. When they turned back, their expressions were identical and resigned. Now we release you, Keitha said quietly. We cannot ask you to bond with us in 14 days. It would be coercion. You barely know us. We will find another way, Vela added. Challenge Rethik's authority directly. Delay the succession. Something. You would lose. The words came out of me without permission. You said it yourself. Unbonded heirs cannot claim the high seat. That's the law, yes. And if Rethik takes regency, your people suffer. Your reforms end. Everything you've worked for disappears. Yes. But you'd accept that rather than pressure me. We told you what we wanted. Keitha's voice cracked slightly. A partner who chose us freely. Not someone trapped by circumstances. Not someone who felt they had no option but to, what if I want to? Silence, Marcus Tuttle. Vela stood, moving toward me with careful steps. You cannot mean that. You've known us for 7 days. I've known you intensely for 7 days. That's different than casually. I stood too, meeting her approach. I've seen you exhausted and frustrated and homesick. I've seen you argue with each other over trivial things and reconcile without words. I've seen you laugh and worry and care about people you'll never meet. That's not enough to... I've also seen you prioritize my comfort over your own interests. Repeatedly. You've answered every question honestly, even when the answers made you look less perfect. You've respected every boundary I set, even when it cost you. I was close to her now, close enough to see the silver swirls in her eyes, the fine lines of stress around them. 7 days of that tells me more than 7 months of performance would. You don't know what bonding means. Not really. Not the way you would feel it. Then, tell me. Show me. Whatever it takes. I reached for her hand. The first time I'd initiated contact, her fingers were trembling. You're not trapping me. I'm choosing this. Why? Keitha was behind me now. I felt her approach. Felt her presence like warmth against my back. Why would you choose this? Because you asked me what you truly wanted, and you answered honestly. Connection. Batati. Authenticity. Someone real. I turned slightly, including her in my gaze. I've spent my whole life being professionally neutral. Carefully appropriate. Diplomatically correct. And I'm good at it, but it's not who I am underneath. Who are you underneath? Someone who makes terrible jokes when he's nervous. Someone who'd rather fail honestly than succeed through performance. Someone who, I stopped, swallowed, forced myself to continue. Someone who's been lonely for a very long time and didn't realize it until 2 alien women showed him what connection could look like. My name in Vela's voice, soft and wondering. I can't promise I'll be a good mate. I don't know your customs or your politics or how to navigate your court. I'll make mistakes, probably enormous ones. I'll embarrass you in ways that actually matter, not just accidental courtship declarations. We know. But I'll stay. When staying is difficult, I'll stay. I'll learn. I'll try. And I'll never, ever pretend to be something I'm not. I looked between them. These 2 remarkable women who had turned my life inside out. Is that enough? Keitha's hand found my shoulder. Vela's fingers tightened around mine. And in the space between heartbeats, something shifted, some threshold crossed. We need to tell you something, Vela said. About the bonding process, what it will require, tell me. It is not painless. The neurological integration takes time, days, perhaps weeks. During that time, you will feel us in your mind. Our emotions, our thoughts, our everything. It can be overwhelming. Humans have never undergone it before. There are risks, Keitha added. We don't know how your neural architecture will respond. There could be complications. Could I die? We don't believe so. But we cannot promise. I should have hesitated. Any rational person would have hesitated. But rationality had left the building somewhere around day 3, when I realized that the sight of Vela's rare smile made my chest ache, and Keitha's laughter had become the best sound I'd ever heard. Do it, I said. Bond with me. Whatever it takes. You should take time to... I've spent 34 years being cautious, being safe, being alone. I pulled them both closer, one hand in Vela's grip, one reaching back to touch Keitha's hip. I don't want to be safe anymore. I want to be yours. The twins moved as one, surrounding me. 4 arms, 2 bodies, 1 shared purpose. Then we begin tonight, Vela whispered. What do I need to do? Trust us. Keitha's breath was warm against my ear. And don't be afraid. I was afraid. Terrified, actually. But beneath the fear was something stronger, something that felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. I trust you, I said. And I meant it. The bonding chamber was nothing like I'd imagined. I had pictured something clinical, medical equipment, monitoring devices, the cold sterility of a hospital. Instead, the twins led me to a room aboard their hidden ship that looked like someone had captured starlight and woven it into fabric. Silk hangings in silver and white rippled with their own luminescence, casting soft shadows across a floor covered in something that felt like moss, but sparkled like diamonds. This was our mother's chamber, Keitha said softly. Where she bonded with our father, where we were conceived. It's beautiful. It's sacred. Vela's hand found mine again, and I realized I'd stopped thinking of the contact as unusual. It felt natural now. Necessary. Are you certain, Marcus? Once we begin, there is no reversing it. I'm certain. Then we need to explain what will happen. She guided me to the center of the chamber, where a circular depression in the floor was lined with more of the luminescent fabric. The bond is formed through sustained contact and shared consciousness. We will open our minds to you, show you everything we are, and you must do the same. The word came out smaller than I intended. Everything. Every memory, every fear, every secret thought. The bond cannot form through partial truth. Keitha settled onto the fabric beside me, her movements impossibly graceful. If there are things you're ashamed of, things you've hidden, we will see them, and you will see ours. I thought about what that meant. Really thought about it. The failures I'd never admitted. The loneliness I'd pretended didn't exist. The desperate need for connection that I buried under professionalism and competence for so long. I'm not a good person, I said. Not entirely. There are things I've done that we know. Vela knelt across from me, her silver eyes gentle. We've read your personnel file, remember? Including the parts that weren't meant to be shared. That's not the same as living it. No. But we chose you knowing you were imperfect. Knowing you had shadows. We don't want a perfect mate, Marcus. We want a real one. And what about your shadows? Your imperfections? The twins exchanged a look, one of those silent communications that I was beginning to understand without needing to hear. We have killed, Keitha said quietly, in defense of our house, our people. We have made decisions that cost lives. We have prioritized our position over individual suffering because sometimes leadership requires cruelty. We are not kind women, Vela added, not always. We are practical. We are ruthless when we must be. We have done things that haunt us, and we would do them again if necessity demanded. You're warning me. We are being honest, as you asked us to be. Vela's hand cupped my face, her thumb tracing the line of my jaw. When the bond forms, you will feel all of it. Every death we've ordered. Every compromise we've made. Can you accept that? I looked at them. These two women who ruled star systems and commanded armies and had chosen me, of all the possible options in the galaxy, because I made a bad joke and then apologized for it. Can you accept what I am? I asked. A man who spent his whole life avoiding commitment because he was afraid of being hurt, who's pretended to be content with loneliness because reaching for more seemed too risky. We already accept it. Then I accept you. All of you. The kills and the compromises and whatever else is hiding in your memories. I reached for both of them, one hand on each of their faces. I'm more afraid of losing this than I am of anything you might show me. Then lie back, Keitha murmured. And let us in. I lay back on the luminescent fabric. It was warm beneath me, pulsing gently with light that seemed to respond to my heartbeat. The twins arranged themselves on either side of me, Vela at my left, Keitha at my right, their bodies pressed against mine along their full lengths. Close your eyes, Vela whispered. I did. Breathe with us, Keitha added. I tried, matching their rhythm, letting my chest rise and fall in sync with theirs. It was strange at first, coordinating three bodies, but gradually it became easier. Natural. Like something I'd been doing my whole life without knowing it. And then, the first sensation was warmth. Not physical warmth, but something deeper. Something that seemed to originate in the center of my chest and spread outward through every nerve. The twins' presence pressed against my mind like hands cupping water. Gentle, careful, asking permission to enter. I let them in. The flood of sensation nearly overwhelmed me. I felt their love for each other, deep as oceans, ancient as stars. I felt their loneliness, the weight of ruling without an equal, the ache of being surrounded by subjects and servants and never having a true partner. I felt their fear of me, of choosing wrong, of opening themselves to someone who might not stay. And I felt their hope, bright and terrified and precious, like a flame they were trying to shelter from the wind. In return, I gave them everything. My childhood, awkward and isolated, too clever for easy friendship. My career, built on perfectionism to compensate for a deep-seated fear of failure. My failed relationships, each one ending when I couldn't bring myself to truly commit. My loneliness, so familiar I'd stopped noticing it. My wonder at finding them. My terror of losing them. My desperate, irrational, completely genuine love. The bond snapped into place like a key finding its lock. I gasped, physically, audibly, as their emotions became my emotions. Their thoughts became as readable to me as my own. I felt Vela's fierce protectiveness, her determination to shield me from the political dangers ahead. I felt Keitha's tender curiosity, her desire to understand every corner of my mind. I felt their love for me. It was not the same love they held for each other. That bond was unique, forged over a lifetime of shared consciousness. But it was no less real, no less deep. A love that had grown in 7 days from curiosity to fascination to something powerful enough to risk everything for. They loved me. They loved me. The realization broke something open inside me. Some wall I hadn't known I'd built. Some barrier I'd maintained for so long I'd forgotten it existed. I felt tears on my face. And I felt the twins' gentle response. Not pity, not judgment. Just acceptance. Just presence. Just two minds cradling mine through the overwhelming experience of finally being known. Stay with us, they said, speaking in thought now, words unnecessary. Forever, I answered. The ceremony continued. Hours or minutes or years, I couldn't tell. Time had become meaningless in the shared space of our consciousness. I learned them, and they learned me. We mapped each other's souls with the careful thoroughness of explorers in an undiscovered country. I found their secrets. The political assassinations, the betrayals of former allies, the cold calculations required to lead. They found mine, the cowardice, the avoidance, the times I'd chosen safety over authenticity. And somehow, knowing everything, we loved each other more. When I finally opened my eyes, the chamber's light had shifted from silver to gold. Dawn, on whatever world we'd come to, or perhaps just the chamber responding to the completion of the bond. Vela was watching me, her silver eyes now holding flecks of familiar brown. My eyes. Keitha was smiling, and the expression seemed to transform her face from alien to achingly beautiful. "How do you feel?" they asked, speaking in unison. "Like I've been asleep my whole life," I said. "And I just woke up. The bond is complete. The council cannot deny our claim now." Vela sat up, pulling me with her. "You are formally recognized as our mate, our partner, our third. What happens next?" "We return to Velor. We claim the high seat. We face Councillor Rethick and whatever challenges he presents." Keitha moved to my other side, and I found myself naturally positioned between them. Protected, included, equal. That sounds difficult. It will be. There will be enemies who reject you because you are human. Politicians who try to use your inexperience against us. Dangers you cannot imagine. I know. And you're still not afraid? I felt their emotions through the bond, the genuine concern, the protective instincts, the worry that they'd ask too much of me. And beneath that, the hope. The desperate, precious hope that I would stay. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "But not of the challenges. Then, what frightens you? The thought of facing any of it without you." I pulled them both closer, reveling in the way their bodies fit against mine, the way their minds nestled comfortably alongside my own. "I spent 34 years alone. Now I have this, have you, and I can't imagine going back." "You won't have to," Vela said firmly. "Never," Keitha agreed. "Then no, I'm not afraid. Not of anything we'll face together." They kissed me then, both of them, one after another. Vela first, fierce and claiming, followed by Keitha, tender and wondering. And through the bond, I felt what they felt. The joy of finding what they'd sought, the relief of being understood, the love that had grown faster than they'd expected and deeper than they'd hoped. "We should go," Vela said eventually, pulling back with visible reluctance. "There are preparations to make. Announcements. The council must be informed." "Your species," Keitha added, her smile turning mischievous, "will have to be told that humanity just joined the line of succession for 17 star systems." I laughed. The first genuine laugh since this whole insane journey had begun. "They're going to have questions," I said. "Many questions, and I'll have to explain how I accidentally proposed to both of you because of a bad panda joke. The historians will be fascinated, the diplomats will be horrified, and us?" Vela raised an eyebrow, a gesture, wry. Realized she'd learned from watching me? "What will we be?" I felt their emotions through the bond, the curiosity, the affection, the anticipation of my answer. And I knew, with complete certainty, what they wanted to hear. "We'll be together," I said. "Whatever comes. Forever." It was, I reflected as they pulled me to my feet and toward the future waiting outside that golden-lit chamber, the best terrible joke I had ever made.